Hi everyone. I wanted to give you a little bit more that you can hold on to in preparation for your persuasive speeches. Persuasive speeches are really my favorite speeches for students because I get to see really what students are thinking about, or more importantly, what you care about. With that said, I am hoping that this short presentation will aid you in some way in properly preparing your persuasive speech. This presentation is really a lot more on the mental and psychological aspects of persuasive speaking, more so than the mechanics. So I hope it's helpful. It only takes a few minutes, so listen very closely. You can see from the previous picture here, we're full of ideas. We're full of things, especially if we're an adult and we've had certain experiences. However, when it comes to persuasion, your opportunity here is to create a new belief stream or reinforce what someone already believes, or perhaps get someone to completely change their way of thinking about something. For example, if a student gives a speech on why abstinence is so necessary, perhaps you don't believe that way. But if a student gives a very compelling argument, maybe, just maybe, it might get you to change your belief. And that's what persuasion is all about. Now, what is your job as the speaker? What exactly should you think about as you prepare your speech? Your job is to get listeners to agree with you and perhaps act on that belief. That's right. You want people to go in the direction mentally and ultimately physically on what you believe. So as you prepare your speech, think about topics that of course you care about, but think about topics that you can get people to act on that belief in some way, or at least begin to think differently. Here's another way of thinking about it. Your job is an advocate. An advocate. You are an attorney for a cause. If you believe in green technology, you're an advocate for it. If you believe that we should not do any type of animal testing in the creation of products, you are an advocate for that cause. If you believe we should have less gun control laws or more gun control laws, then you are an advocate. Consider yourself an attorney in front of the room presenting a case. Therefore, your argument when you get in front of the room in a few days is to be compelling and to state your case. Now, you have to be really careful though, because you have to make ethical decisions when it comes to persuasion. When we are really excited or impassioned about something we believe in, it's so easy to, let's say, stretch the truth a little. So your goals and methods must be ethically sound. There's never any room in speech making for deceptive statements. So it's important that you spend a few days really making sure what you're saying is absolutely true. Now, of course, there is some complexity when it comes to persuasion. Of all the kinds of public speaking, persuasion is the most complex and, believe it or not, it's the most challenging. Why? So while you may be speaking and you may be thinking, hey, I've got it, I'm sharing, they get it, inside the mind of the audience may be totally different. They may be thinking a host of things. They may think, hey, I don't believe what you're saying. You're not credible to me. That's why mental dialogue in public speaking is so important. Now, as you prepare your speech, you've got to think about this. There are basically 4 methods of persuasion. There is credibility, reasoning, evidence, and emotional appeals. Let's start with credibility. Credibility is when you are an expert on a topic. If you have been riding motorcycles for 20 years, then please tell the audience that if you're going to be doing a speech on why motorcycles are better than cars, then you have credibility in this subject area. If you believe going vegan is the best way to live, and you've been a vegan for the past 8 years and your health has improved and your body looks great, then that's credibility. Another way to persuade is through reasoning. Reasoning is when you make a series of logical statements that causes the audience to reason that you are correct. You take the audience on a journey that backs the audience deductively into agreeing with you. You reason with the audience. In fact, public speaking, often referred to as rhetoric in some ways, has its roots in reasoning. Aristotle talked about that through something called the rhetorical triangle. You probably have heard of it: ethos, logos, and pathos. That is a process of reasoning with the audience, where the audience believes that your logical way of positioning your angle, your advocacy, your case makes sense. Another method to persuade is evidential or evidence. Again, your job when you get up to do your speech in a few days is to be a lawyer. So maybe you present evidence, case study after case study after case study. Maybe you present a series of proof to the audience that shows why your belief is correct and why we should act on the belief. You can present evidence like in a courtroom as an attorney by going through your research carefully and providing lots of background to prove your point. Another aspect or method of persuasion is emotional appeals. Emotional appeals. Emotional appeals is exactly what it says. It is when you deliver your speeches in such a way that the audience connects with you on an emotional level and they believe you. An example would be if you are giving a speech on why the government should invest more money into AIDS research, and you want the audience to believe you. Well, maybe you use a little bit of evidence in your appeal, and maybe you have some credibility with this topic, but you could deliver it emotionally by starting out by telling a compelling story, a very compelling story on seeing your loved one die of HIV and AIDS. You could carry the audience on an emotional journey of what it felt like to care for someone dying of this disease. So that's an emotional appeal. So think for a moment, how are you going to present? Of all the slides that I presented here, this is probably the most important because you've got to think about that when you get in front of the room. So finally, on speech day, your job is to deliver your speeches fluently, expressively, extemporaneously, of course, credibly, but above all, persuasively. That's what I want you to think about as you get ready for your speech day. Finally, don't just give a speech. Create some kind of experience for the audience. Be creative. Think outside the box. Think, how can you rattle us in the class in a few days? How can you turn the class upside down and get us really thinking about your topic and perhaps acting on the belief? Thanks for listening, and I certainly hope this has been helpful. Go for it.